Good morning, buddy. How are you?
I'm well, Patrick. Good morning, and good morning to everybody who's populated the Zoom.
I have a couple bulk questions for you.
Okay.
I'll start with Scott Oberg. From at least from the box score, he threw another really nice, clean inning yesterday. Have you guys set a game plan out for him yet regarding will he be the opening day roster? You still going to ease him in? Have you made any of those kind of decisions?
We're, every day, Patrick, we talk about our roster, we talk about our pitching staff, as you can imagine. And as it relates to Scott, we're very hopeful, and we think that he's going to be on the opening day roster. I know that's his goal, and I think how he feels physically and where he is, with his off-season programs, I think he's in position to be on our roster. But we'll continue to monitor his situation, his next number of outings, but everything is very positive that he could be on our roster April 1st.
As far as his pitching goes, beyond the raw numbers, how has he looked in your eyes?
I think he's looked very solid. Even through January when he started to send us video of him, back east indoors, off, indoor mounds. He looked good delivery-wise, and the delivery looks great. He's repeating his delivery, repeating his arm slot, repeating his finish. I mean, everything looks, on point as far as his mechanics, and his stuff looks good too. He's pitching right about 93 miles an hour here this spring, which is, solid for this time of year. The slider has, great spin and break. He looks comfortable. He really does. And I think the results of his couple outings have shown that. So, he's in a really good spot, I think, both physically and mentally.
And my other relief I'd like you to comment on is Yancey Almante. At least numbers-wise, he's had a really solid spring too. And I know you told us early in spring that you just think sky's the limit for him, so to speak. Has he impressed?
Yeah, he's pitched well, and I think yesterday was, a little bit of a bump in velocity for him, which was good to see. You like to see guys gaining momentum as you get to this point of spring as far as their stuff. But he's looked good as well. He had a walk in there yesterday, which we don't. Especially me, Patrick. I don't like the base on balls, but he's been looking good. He's been throwing the ball fine, and I like the fact that again, I think he's building on his stuff, and that's a good sign. But we need him, like we need all our relievers to have a nice season. I mean, that's part of what makes a successful pitching staff, and we've talked about that. All of them pitching well. But Yancey's coming in with a lot of confidence based on what he did last year, and hopefully that he can pick that up right where he left off in 2020.
Thank you.
Thomas Harding.
Hey, buddy. First of all, good morning.
Morning.
And secondly, I want to follow up on Patrick, kind of to keep things on the same wavelength here. Tyra Kinley, throughout the spring, has looked really good to you. What have you seen from him? What's the improvement since last year?
Yeah, well, I think with Tyler, and you haven't seen him pitch in a while. He had a little bit of a side issue that he threw a bullpen yesterday. He's going to throw a simulated game, I believe, tomorrow, and then we'll get him back in some live action against other Cactus League opponents. But I think with Tyler, we saw some really good pitching last year, some big spots that he came through. I think with Tyler, a lot of it's mechanical and it's a little bit of max effort on the fastball that creates some control and command issues. We're trying to just tone that down just a touch, so maybe we can reel that fastball in the strike zone a little bit more consistently. He's got a great slider, on a scouting scale, well above average on a scouting scale, grading out his slider. So that mix of his best stuff, the fastball slider, can be dominating. He's starting to throw a little bit of a changeup too that I think is going to be effective for him, especially against left-handed hitters and right-handed hitters both. But again, I think we get that delivery and that effort level in a nice spot. I think you'll see the ball in the strike zone more, and I think you'll see better performance. So again, I think here's a guy that can really add to a bullpen just based on his stuff, and the makeup. It's off the chart, man. What a competitor, what a teammate. All the things you look for when you put a roster together to make things work. But first and foremost, he's got talent, and I think that he's in a good spot to really, solidify himself as a big league relief pitcher moving forward.
Is this a situation that could keep him out to start the season, or do you feel like if you can get him back in?
It's going to be close. It's going to be close, but we'll see how he comes out the next 4, 5, 6 days and see where we are. But it's going to be close. We got to get him back on the mound. He's got to feel confident, which he does now after yesterday's side session. But that decision will come down probably to the end based on where we think he is, how he's throwing the ball and how he is physically and his confidence.
Hey, one guy I also wanted to ask you about was Josh Fuentes. Yesterday, when you were talking about Rogers, you suggested that Fuentes could play third base for you. You've seen him play well. Is he the type that one of those guys where no matter what the plans are, he finds a way to work his way into it?
I think so. That's my belief. I think that's a good question for Josh, but I'd like to think that he's that player that when he comes to the ballpark and he sees his name in the lineup, wherever position that is, he can handle it, and he's happy that he's playing. I think you have those players that sort of have that way about them, their personality, their attitude, their just the way they are. As competitors, it doesn't matter where you play them, that they're ready to play and to do a job. I think you see that in all different sports, where maybe football players are bounced around a little bit on the offensive side. You got Magic Johnson, who played center, one game in the NBA Finals, as you know, Thomas. So there are players that are versatile. And I think you got to take advantage of that versatility, use it to the team's advantage, and more importantly, to their advantage to get them in the lineup. And Josh has that.
Sometimes when we look down from up top, you see some of the mannerisms in the box or going up the line or even the play the other day, and you almost think Nolan. Are there times that kind of flashes into your mind? I'm not comparing the two
right.
of them.
Oh, for sure. I think you see that. Yeah, I think obviously they're related, and they work out a lot together. They grew up together playing against each other. I think some of that stuff rubs off, but there's a spirited energy to Josh that we all love, and I think it really truly works to his benefit.
Thanks, buddy.
Nick Groke. Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, hey, buddy.
Hi, Nick.
Hey, I'm a Zoom populator today.
Right. I love when you're on, Nick.
Awesome. To go along with Thomas and Patrick, really. Obviously you've built in a whole bunch of versatility onto your roster. Players, not only players who can play multiple positions, but different position groups, outfield, infield. I don't know if we use that term, position groups in baseball. It's kind of a football term. When you're building out a roster, just in general, like what's your comfort level with having, like multiple players who can play in the outfield, for instance, but maybe aren't primary outfielders? Does that suffice together as, are you comfortable having that as a backup, or do you need a spot do you need somebody at every spot basically that can play that position primarily? Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, I think I know what you're getting at. I think that we've talked versatility is huge for a manager and a coaching staff, because as the game moves along, it just gives you more options to give yourself, maybe the best matchups or the best at bat or the best defense, throughout the game. I think with, our group, I think you always try to look at defense as an important factor in the versatility. But there are times when, in a game or even a start, you might have to, maybe lessen your defense, for your best chance to put a lineup out there to score against a certain starting pitcher, or a day game after night game when guys need rest. And, in a way you take your chances that it's going to turn out okay, even though it might not be the best defensive alignment that you want to put out there. But, it's part of it, right? I mean, you never know where a ball is going to be hit. And sometimes, things work out, sometimes they don't. But, you could see a scenario, to your question, like you might see Josh Fuentes in left field, on a given night, or if we have to make some moves and something happens during the game that, we might have to do that. We feel really good about, the Hampson, Owings, Trevor Story, McMahon, middle infield stuff. Feel pretty good about that, on defense. I think we feel pretty good about the third base, first base defense with McMahon at third, Fuentes at first, potentially Crone. We feel good there. I think the outfield defense is fine. If you look at Tapp and Charlie and Hilliard and Hampson and Owings and Daza, I mean, the guys that we have out there. Connor Joe, he's been in the outfield a little bit. That sort of looks like a Fuentes type thing, but they're athletic and they don't scare off, and they'll play aggressive. So again, you want to try to get your best defense, but a lot of times it doesn't work out that way. But we feel comfortable in moving our guys around and not looking over our shoulder, so to speak.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
I know that was long-winded, but hope that maybe that answers your question.
It answered. Yes, thank you.
David Laroa from Fangraphs. David, go ahead.
Hey, buddy. Greetings from sunny Boston.
David, great to have you on our Zoom.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. You mentioned that Scott Oberg's velocity is good for this time of year. It seems like more and more guys have been training for velocity over the season and coming into camp, throwing hard right from the get-go. Is that a good thing, or is this something that is potentially a bad thing?
I think we've seen, this is, again, I think this is, I could get long-winded here, as you can imagine, when we talk about velocity and what pitchers have done. I think really over the last 5 years, and maybe it started about 10 years ago with programs to truly increase velocity. I think the off-season training programs have put pitchers in positions to increase velocity. I think we've seen that over the years of many pitchers, bumping their velocity. Coming into camp, I think there are certain pitchers on certain clubs that are trying to make the team, and they have to show their stuff right away from day one, whether it's bullpens, batting practice, games, B games, to impress coaching staffs, front offices, in their ability to show that they, can make a big league roster. I think other guys have trained in the off season, and they want to see if those training methods have resulted in increased velocity in games. So they might turn it loose right from the get-go. And there are risks to that if you're not in great game shape and you try to throw the ball with max effort in February or early March. If you haven't had the proper buildup, I think you risk injury. And I think also that your mechanics might suffer some by the max effort of just trying to attain velocity. So, I know the reasons why this is happening, but I would like to think that pitchers can be a little bit more controlled through the 6 weeks of spring training to get to their regular season velocity, and even that will vary over a 6-month season.
A quick follow-up on that. It sounds like injuries is your biggest concern, but have you seen any trends of guys throwing very hard early in spring, maybe sort of running out of bullets at the end of the season?
I mean, offhand, I can't think of a certain pitcher, but of course, I've seen that over time. There's no doubt about it that a lengthy season, can diminish stuff. I have seen that for sure with a lot of pitchers, and a lot of times that happens for me with younger pitchers who start throwing programs as early as December. They get on mounds throwing side sessions as early as December and early January, and they're throwing with a great deal of effort. And by the time the summer comes around, they've sort of run out of gas. I have seen that. Other players sort of do the same thing, and they're gifted, and they're able to, maintain velocity and maintain their stuff. It's sort of individually based, I think, of how you can, study these things. But in general, I would like to see pitchers, train in the off season. Maybe with less throwing in November, December, early January, and then start a gradual build-up to let, the 6 weeks in spring training build up their arm strength and their stuff, as opposed to maybe starting that process, as far back as December.
Thank you.
I will go back to Thomas and Patrick, and then finish up with Mark Stout. Thomas, go.
Buddy, I've got two for you. First, is your best infield without Rogers? Is your best infield with McMahon at second or with McMahon at third?
What is your definition of best?
Best defensive infield.
Well, I'll say this. I think I think Chris Owings is a really good defender. At second, I think McMahon's a very good defender at third. I mean, that's a good alignment. I also think that Josh Fuentes is a good defender. I mean, we've seen him at first be above average. We haven't seen a lot of him at third, based on his cousin being there the last number of years, and with Josh being on our team. But in the periods of time and practice here, and 3 or 4 games that he's played third here, he's shown well. I mean, he had a great defensive game the other day against the Dodgers here at Salt River. He was a minor league third baseman, and the minor league scouting reports, from our player development people with him at third were solid. Solid defender at third base. So him at third and Mac at second, I think is very capable of being a very good infield defensively.
Okay, my other question, and you mentioned Chris Owings, and it's March 20th. At this stage, as far as like guys like Owings, like Crone, Bird, some of the non-roster guys, have you made any decisions on those? Because I understand in some cases guys can leave if they don't.
Yeah, those decisions are nearing for sure. I think there are certain dates on the calendar for certain players. Contractually, we have to make decisions on those fellows, and I think those are coming soon, Thomas. I mean, maybe sooner than you think that we have to make some decisions.
Okay. All right. So do you look at Owings as a potential infield starter for you, regular? I mean,
I think sure he's going to start some games. I think that Fuentes will start games. McMahon, Hampson. I think if you look at our roster, I think the beauty of it is the versatility and the ability to maneuver guys around, to keep guys fresh, to keep guys current on a regular basis, and I think more than anything to give everybody the best chance to succeed against a certain starting pitcher on a given night. So again, I can see a lot of at-bats being spread around for a handful of different guys. And I think that's probably the best way to do it. Probably, I think in this day and age, the 162 game player or the anywhere from 150 to 162 game player, there's not a lot of those anymore. There are some, for sure. I mean, you can go down and, we can name them, but, of the, 400 plus position players, there's not many that are built for 162. So all these guys are going to play. They're going to get bats. They're all going to contribute. And again, performance sort of dictates what happens. And if guys get rolling and are hot, I mean, they'll play. And if guys, have a little bit of a scuffle and need a day off or two, they'll be able to get it, and we'll be able to pop somebody else in there. So, all our guys will contribute.
So I guess there's a bit of a fool's errand to try to pin you down on a starting lineup because of the way the game is played these days, right?
Thomas, you couldn't have said it better.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, Patrick, and we'll finish up with Mark. Patrick, go ahead.
Oh, Thomas cracks me up. Anyway, question for you, another one about the roster. You had mentioned, I think last week, buddy, that you guys were debating whether you should go with 14-man pitching staff and a shorter bench. You said you hadn't made that decision yet. Now that Brendan is injured and won't make opening day, has that altered your thinking about that? And if so, can you tell us yet what your decision's going to be, or is that still pending?
That's still pending. And I don't know whether that impacted that or not. I think we were thinking about that, whoever was going to make our team. And that's still in play. I think we're going to look at that hard. We're going to see where our starters are as far as pitch count and how they're doing when we get to April 1st, whether we need, an extra arm in the pen, whether it makes sense to keep an extra arm in a pen, early in the season. So that decision, Patrick, will probably be made at the very end. Whether to keep 14 pitchers, 12 position players, or 13 and 13. I think that's gonna be right there at the very end.
Yeah, and I guess those of us in the media like deadlines. You would like to set things.
Yes, you do. Which is great.
Yeah, but for you guys, it's a 162 game season, and 10 days in, you could, turn
Sure.
that scenario around.
That it could change. It can change on a dime, as depending on, what happens. What happens in the course of a game. As far as an injury or something. So, that's why you you got to always have ulterior plans, different scenarios, contingency ideas. All these things come into play. When you're especially at the end of spring training, and even when you get into the season. You want to try to create, again, as much depth as possible. In this case, in our alternate site, if we have to pull the trigger on somebody, you got to have talent there too to bring up. So, all these things will be discussed, and there'll be topics for us to work through as we get through those last 3 or 4 days of spring.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, you got it, Pat.
Mark Stout, finish this up.
Talk to Bill Hanslick someday about playing against Kareem at center. You'll like that conversation.
Say that. Who'd you say was the name? Who?
Bill Hanslick played center against Kareem. He played a lot of center. You talk to him someday.
Yeah,
about that.
Bill Hanslick.
Yeah.
Where'd he go to school? Notre Dame?
That's right.
Come on. Yeah, I was a Bill Hanslick
Look
fan.
at you.
Yeah.
Hey, I know we got to finish up quick here. 2 quick questions, and then I'm done. I'm going to watch CU and talk to Tapia. One is, and I haven't heard all of your press conferences, concerns on the home run swings on Carlos, Estevez, and the pen. Second is, when were you okay or comfortable with Tapia being a leadoff guy, and why?
Yeah.
And good talking.
Okay. Good talk. Yeah, I think with Carlos, I think if you look at the spring training homers, yesterday he fell behind 3-0 and came in with a fastball on 3-2. He's been working on some things, and full disclosure here with his fastball, and I think that's resulted in some home runs. But it's more of a result of some things that he's trying to do strategically, with his pitches, and he's not quite there yet as far as, locking in on what needs to occur in competition, with his pitch making. So, hopefully we'll see some better results here in the next 3 outings that Carlos has. 4 outings I think he might have left, and we'll look for different results as we end up here the last 10 days or so. With Tapia, this guy's been a minor league performer. You look at his track record in the minor league as far as his batting average, the hit tool, his on-base percentage. And in the minor leagues, he led off, and he enjoys leading off. He likes that. He likes that aspect of his game as a leadoff hitter. So, and you'll find, ironically, and maybe at times hard to believe that, there's a lot of players that, don't like leading off. They don't like that feel of being the first guy to hit in the game or an inning. Some players might feel added pressure hitting there. I've seen that happen. It's crazy, but there are players who don't embrace leading off, whereas Tapia does. And I think with him, what he showed last year, for the greater part of the 60-game season, once he got established in the lineup as our leadoff guy, he did a nice job. He ended up hitting .322 in the abbreviated season. The on base, for most of the year was around .380, .390. Then it fell a little bit the last, I'd say, week. He started chasing some hits. The walk rate went down, and I think he ended up on base around .360, .365, which is still, very solid. So, again, with Tapia, I think our conversations are about what that means to lead off as an on-base guy. The on-base percentage is key. Obviously, I think there's a hit tool for him to get on, and I think there's got to be over the long haul of his career. There's got to be the base on ball component rising and the strikeout rate coming down. I think there's been a few too many strikeouts here in spring training in this exhibition season. We got to cut the strikeouts down. We got to improve the walk rate because we think the hit tool will be there, and I think that equates to a good on-base percentage.
All right.
Okay, guys. Thanks.